A paramedic suffers a heart attack during a rescue operation, and the unexpected happens. In the midst of a life-or-death crisis, a paramedic finds not just a lifeline, but a soulmate. This story challenges everything we think we know about fate and resilience, showing that even in the darkest moments, bright futures can emerge. Ben was in the middle of a high-stakes rescue mission, the kind he had trained for his entire career as a paramedic. The air was thick with tension as he navigated the narrow, debris-strewn corridors of a collapsed building. His heart pounded with adrenaline as he reached the trapped victim, reassuring them with his calm, steady voice. But as he secured the victim and prepared to lift them to safety, a sudden, searing pain shot through his chest. Ben's vision blurred, and his legs buckled beneath him. He collapsed to the ground, clutching his chest, gasping for breath. The world around him seemed to slow, the urgent shouts of his team fading into a distant echo. "Ben, hang in there," a fellow paramedic shouted, rushing to his side. The rescue mission was now twofold: saving the trapped victim and getting Ben the immediate help he needed. His colleagues worked swiftly, their training kicking in as they stabilized him and loaded him onto a stretcher. As the ambulance sped toward the hospital, Ben's thoughts were a jumble of fear and frustration. How could this happen to him, a seasoned paramedic in his prime? The sirens wailed, a haunting reminder of his own vulnerability. He closed his eyes, willing himself to stay conscious, to keep fighting. At the hospital, the emergency room was a flurry of activity. Doctors and nurses moved with practiced urgency, assessing Ben's condition. Among them was Dr. Jane Miller, a dedicated cardiologist with a reputation for her unwavering commitment to her patients. She quickly took charge, her calm demeanor masking the intense focus in her eyes. "Let's get him into the cath lab now," Jane ordered, her voice firm and authoritative. As they wheeled Ben into the lab, she glanced down at him, their eyes briefly meeting. In that moment, something passed between them, an unspoken connection that neither could fully comprehend. The procedure was delicate and complex, but Jane's skilled hands worked with precision. Ben's heart, once a ticking time bomb, was now in the care of someone who treated each beat with the utmost respect and care. Hours seemed to pass in minutes, the tension palpable as Jane and her team worked tirelessly to stabilize him. Finally, the procedure was complete. Ben was moved to the intensive care unit, where he would begin the long road to recovery. Jane stayed by his side, monitoring his progress, her presence a steady source of reassurance. As he drifted in and out of consciousness, Ben found himself drawn to the sound of her voice, the calm authority that promised he was in good hands. In the days that followed, Ben's condition slowly improved. He woke to find Jane at his bedside, her eyes reflecting both relief and determination. "You're going to be okay, Ben," she said softly, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "We're going to get through this together." Ben nodded weakly, his heart filled with gratitude and a growing sense of admiration for the woman who had saved his life. Little did they know, this moment of crisis would be the beginning of a journey that would bring them closer than either of them ever expected. Ben's recovery was a slow, arduous process. Each day brought new challenges as he adjusted to life after his heart attack. But in the midst of the medical routines and the struggle to regain his strength, there was a bright spot: Dr. Jane Miller. She wasn't just his cardiologist. She became his guide through this unexpected journey. From their very first conversation, Ben felt a connection with Jane that went beyond the typical doctor-patient relationship. It wasn't just her medical expertise that impressed him. It was her genuine concern for his well-being. Jane had a way of making him feel seen, understood, and cared for in a way that was both professional and deeply personal. "Good morning, Ben. How are we feeling today?" Jane would ask, her voice warm and reassuring. Ben looked forward to these daily check-ins, finding comfort in her presence. She had a way of explaining complex medical terms in a simple, understandable manner, always taking the time to ensure he understood every aspect of his treatment. One afternoon, during a routine examination, their conversation took a more personal turn. Jane mentioned how she had always been fascinated by cardiology, inspired by her own family's history with heart disease. Ben shared stories from his days as a paramedic, the adrenaline rush of rescue missions, and the satisfaction of saving lives. They laughed over shared experiences, finding common ground in their dedication to helping others. "Do you miss it?" Jane asked, her eyes searching his. Ben paused, considering his answer. "I do, every day. But I'm starting to see this as another kind of mission. Getting better, staying strong, for the people I love and for myself." Their conversations grew longer, more frequent. Jane would stop by even when she wasn't on duty, just to check on Ben and see how he was doing. They discovered a mutual love for classic movies and began recommending favorites to each other. Jane brought in a DVD player one evening, and they watched Casablanca together, sharing popcorn and quiet laughter. Ben couldn't help but notice the small things about Jane that made her special. The way her eyes lit up when she talked about her work, her kindness with every patient, her tireless dedication. Jane, in turn, saw the strength and resilience in Ben, the determination that had made him a great paramedic now helping him through his recovery. As the days turned into weeks, their bond deepened. Jane introduced Ben to new forms of exercise and relaxation techniques to help his heart heal. They worked together on his rehabilitation plan, setting goals and celebrating each milestone. Their partnership in his recovery became a source of strength for both of them. One day, after a particularly tough physical therapy session, Ben found himself opening up to Jane about his fears and hopes for the future. "Sometimes, I wonder if I'll ever get back to who I was," he admitted, his voice tinged with vulnerability. Jane reached out, placing a comforting hand on his. "You're not alone, Ben. We're in this together. And sometimes, it's not about going back to who you were. It's about becoming someone even stronger." That moment marked a turning point in their relationship. They both realized that their connection was growing into something more profound. It wasn't just about doctor and patient anymore. It was about two people finding solace, strength, and a spark of something beautiful amidst the chaos of life. As Ben continued to heal, he found himself looking forward to each new day, not just for the progress he was making, but for the moments he shared with Jane. Their hearts had crossed paths in the most unexpected of ways, setting the stage for a love story that neither of them had anticipated, but both were beginning to cherish. Ben's road to recovery was paved with challenges and small victories. Every day was a battle, but it was also a testament to his resilience and determination. The physical therapy sessions were grueling, pushing him to his limits. Ben often found himself frustrated by the slow progress, the limitations of his own body a stark contrast to the strength he once took for granted. Yet, amidst the struggles, there was hope. Jane was a constant presence, her unwavering support a beacon of light in his darkest moments. She attended his therapy sessions whenever she could, offering encouragement and practical advice. "One step at a time, Ben," she would remind him, her voice steady and reassuring. "You're stronger than you think." There were days when Ben felt like giving up, the pain and exhaustion overwhelming. But Jane's belief in him never wavered. She celebrated each small victory, whether it was walking a few extra steps or completing a difficult exercise. Her positivity was infectious, reigniting his determination to keep pushing forward. Their bond deepened through these shared struggles. Jane's dedication went beyond her professional duty. It was personal. She took the time to understand Ben's fears and frustrations, offering a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on. In her presence, Ben felt seen and understood, his vulnerabilities met with compassion and respect. One afternoon, after a particularly challenging session, Ben collapsed onto a bench, his body trembling with fatigue. Jane sat beside him, her hand resting gently on his back. "It's okay to feel frustrated, Ben," she said softly. "Recovery isn't a straight line. There will be ups and downs, but you're making progress." Ben looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude and admiration. "I couldn't do this without you, Jane," he admitted. "Your support means everything to me." Jane smiled, her eyes reflecting the warmth and affection she felt for him. "And I'm here, every step of the way. We'll get through this together." As Ben's physical health improved, so did his emotional well-being. He started to see the future with a sense of possibility rather than dread. The dreams he thought were lost began to re-emerge, fueled by the hope and strength Jane instilled in him. They spent evenings talking about their goals and aspirations, finding joy in the simple act of sharing their lives. One evening, as they walked through the hospital garden, Ben turned to Jane, a newfound determination in his eyes. "I want to go back to being a paramedic," he said. "I know it won't be easy, but I want to help people again." Jane's heart swelled with pride. "You can do it, Ben. I believe in you. We'll work together to get you there." Their conversations often ventured beyond recovery, touching on deeper, more personal topics. They shared stories from their pasts, dreams for the future, and the fears that kept them awake at night. Through these conversations, they discovered a profound connection that went beyond words, a bond forged in the crucible of shared struggle and mutual support. The road to recovery was long and challenging, but it was also filled with moments of hope and triumph. Ben's strength and determination, coupled with Jane's unwavering support, created a partnership that was both inspiring and transformative. Together, they faced each hurdle with courage, knowing that they were stronger together. As Ben continued to heal, he realized that his journey was not just about regaining his physical strength. It was about rediscovering his purpose and finding a new sense of self. With Jane by his side, he felt ready to embrace whatever the future held, confident in their shared strength and unwavering hope. As Ben's recovery progressed, the bond between him and Jane grew deeper and more complex. What began as a professional relationship had blossomed into a profound connection that neither had anticipated. Ben was no longer just a patient to Jane. He had become a significant part of her life, and she of his. Their conversations extended beyond the walls of the hospital. They found themselves talking late into the evening, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, and their fears. Ben opened up about his experiences as a paramedic, the highs and lows of saving lives, and the trauma he carried from the field. Jane listened with empathy, offering her own stories of challenges and triumphs in the medical world. One evening, after a particularly heartfelt conversation, Jane invited Ben to join her for a walk in the nearby park. It was a clear night, the stars twinkling above as they strolled side by side. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the gentle rustle of leaves created a soothing backdrop to their conversation. "I feel like I've known you forever," Ben said, glancing at Jane with a smile. "You've been such a huge part of my recovery. I don't know how I would have done this without you." Jane's heart swelled with emotion. "You've shown so much strength, Ben. It's been an honor to support you, and I feel the same way." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to fade away. In that silence, a mutual understanding blossomed. They weren't just doctor and patient. They were two people who had found solace and strength in each other during a tumultuous time. As days turned into weeks, their bond continued to deepen. They began spending more time together outside of the hospital, sharing meals and exploring the city. Jane introduced Ben to her favorite cafes and hidden spots, and Ben shared his love for outdoor adventures, suggesting future plans for hiking and kayaking once he was fully recovered. One afternoon, Jane surprised Ben with a picnic at his favorite park. They sat on a blanket, enjoying the warm sun and the simple pleasure of each other's company. As they talked and laughed, the lines between friendship and something more began to blur. "You've become so important to me, Jane," Ben confessed, his voice soft but earnest. "More than I ever expected." Jane reached out, taking his hand in hers. "You mean a lot to me too, Ben. I never thought I'd find someone who understands me like you do." Their connection grew stronger with each passing day. The support and encouragement they offered each other became a foundation upon which their relationship was built. They celebrated each milestone in Ben's recovery together, their hearts intertwined in a shared journey of healing and hope. One evening, as they watched the sunset from a hilltop, Ben turned to Jane with a look of determination. "I want to be there for you, the way you've been there for me. I want to be a part of your life, Jane, not just as a patient, but as someone who cares deeply for you." Jane's eyes sparkled with emotion. "I want that too, Ben. We've come so far together, and I can't imagine my life without you in it." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over them, Ben and Jane realized that their journey was just beginning. What started as a professional bond had transformed into something beautiful and profound. Together, they faced the future with a sense of excitement and anticipation, knowing that their love and partnership would guide them through whatever challenges lay ahead. With Ben's health steadily improving, he and Jane began to explore what their future could look like together. Their relationship, forged in the fires of adversity, had grown into something deep and abiding. They were ready to face whatever came next, hand in hand. Ben had resumed light duties as a paramedic, carefully balancing his passion for the job with the need to maintain his health. Each day was a reminder of how far he'd come, and Jane was there every step of the way, supporting him with her unwavering belief in his strength and resilience. Their schedules were busy, but they always found time for each other, cherishing the moments they shared. One evening, after a particularly challenging day at work, Ben invited Jane over for dinner. They cooked together, laughing and enjoying the simple pleasure of each other's company. As they sat down to eat, Ben took Jane's hand, looking into her eyes with a seriousness that made her heart skip a beat. "Jane, I've been thinking a lot about us," he began. "About everything we've been through and everything that lies ahead. You've been my rock, my confidant, my everything. I can't imagine my life without you." Jane's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Ben, you've given me so much too. Your strength, your courage, and your love have changed my life. I want to face every challenge, every joy, every moment with you." Ben smiled, squeezing her hand. "Then let's do it. Let's build a life together. We've overcome so much already, and I know we can face whatever comes our way." Their relationship continued to blossom, grounded in mutual respect and love. They took time to explore their passions together, whether it was hiking up a mountain trail or simply enjoying a quiet evening at home. They celebrated each milestone, big and small, always mindful of the journey that had brought them together. One sunny afternoon, Ben surprised Jane with a visit to a charming little chapel on the outskirts of town. They had often talked about their dreams and hopes for the future, but this visit had a special significance. As they walked through the chapel's garden, Ben paused, turning to Jane with a look of pure love and devotion. "Jane, this chapel represents new beginnings," he said softly, "and I can't think of a better place to start our new beginning together." With that, he got down on one knee, pulling out a small, velvet box. "Jane, will you marry me?" Jane's heart soared, tears streaming down her face as she nodded. "Yes, Ben, 1,000 times yes." They embraced, their hearts full of joy and hope for the future. Their wedding was a beautiful celebration of love, surrounded by friends and family who had supported them through their journey. As they exchanged vows, promising to stand by each other through all of life's ups and downs, there wasn't a dry eye in the chapel. In the years that followed, Ben and Jane faced many challenges, but they did so together, their love growing stronger with each passing day. They continued to support each other in their careers, always finding time to nurture their relationship. Ben's health remained stable, a testament to his determination and Jane's dedicated care. They also found ways to give back to the community, sharing their story and inspiring others to persevere in the face of adversity. Their journey became a beacon of hope, showing that even the darkest times could lead to the most beautiful beginnings. As they stood together on their 10th wedding anniversary, looking out over the same hilltop where they had first confessed their love, Ben and Jane knew that their story was far from over. They had built a life filled with love, resilience, and endless possibilities. And with every challenge they faced, they did so with the unwavering belief that together they could overcome anything.